is Market Pulse. So let's pick up the pulse of the day with research and Insight Associate with Norrenberger, Samuel Oyakanmi. Great to have you join me.
Thank you, John. Good afternoon.
All right, good afternoon, Samuel. Let's begin with one of the most capitalized stocks on the NGX. Yesterday, Airtel Africa, they announced the purchase of more of its shares. They've bought almost $30 million of its shares in its ongoing share buyback program. So just for a refresher, can you provide us with, what are the objectives behind this buyback program?
Yeah, based on the announcement of Airtel Africa, so if you remember when they released their audited results for March 2024, they were announcing that they were going to do some buyback up to $50 million from CT. Last year, they bought about 7.38 million units of shares, which were cancelled. And the idea about that is that they're just trying to reduce the amount of shares being in the market. And what that helps investors is that what that also do generally for the business anyways is that it also increases some of the metrics like the earnings per share. Because of course, when you want to dilute some of the shares listed in the market, it helps reduce the number of shares available in the market and also help in some way to improve profitability in terms of measurement, not absolute value. So when you look at their Q1 results released on June 2024, you'll see some improvement in terms of earnings per share. Although if you're comparing that with last year, you realize that was a loss anyways. So it might not be able to compare tick for that, but in general, it helps to improve profitability. And I think that's what the business is trying to do, and use some of their cash flow to buy back some of the shares in the hands of City, and that might be for a while because I think they're buying up to about $50 million.
And we'll see whether or not these objectives are being achieved as more results come out later on. But let's come to a close competitor, MTN Nigeria. Today, there was some sort of comeback, but we know that they have been taking a major dent, right, due to their earning results and poor earning results, right, because of FX exposure. Investors have been dumping the stock as a result of that. But, could there be a glimmer of hope and perhaps improved prospects of profitability ahead for MTN Nigeria, especially considering the latest news with the negotiation in its tower lease agreement with IHS and ATC?
Yeah, happy you said that because today when I saw that MTN was one of the top performers in the market, I think it just speaks well to how investors also see some of this news that come up. Because then again, you look at the financials, look at H1 2024, you realize that revenues at MTN increased by 33%, but direct network costs increased by over 100%. And then when you look at what are the factors that drove this significant cost, or what must have caused a significant decline in the operating profits? You realize that aside from inflation, many of those expenses were tied to FX. And as a result of the FX volatility, we saw MTN recording tremendous losses. If you look at total cost increased by 67%, and I'm sure that is not just only FX inflation related, most of which are FX related. You look at the balance sheet also, you see the likes of lease liabilities increasing by 47%, which is more particular to this deal that they are signing with IHS and ATC. And what it means is that they'll be able to pay some of these their lease obligations in Naira, not necessarily pegged to dollar, and that helps them solve the problem around FX volatility and FX scarcity. That also might portend some level of positives going forward towards the end of the year, because like last year they recorded losses. And that also impacted dividend payment. This year also they've seen losses to the tune of about 519 billion naira. If they don't try to close some of these bottlenecks around FX, the exposures to FX liabilities, we might see them also extending that loss. And I think this is really a positive in the right direction.
Yeah,
Hoping that is also going to help them come back, and probably we'll see them come up with some positive profitability by the end of the year.
Yeah, I can imagine how positive that would be, being able to pay in Naira. And I mean, that just shields you from the volatility with FX. So for you, all things considered so far, we don't know what lies ahead as well. Is this a buy, sell, or hold? How do you also anticipate investors positioning and repositioning in the long term towards MTN stocks?
I didn't get that question clearly, Joanna. Can you please come again?
So, I mean, when it comes to MTN shares, right, and stocks, how do you see investors positioning, repositioning in the light of this news, right? Being able to shield, MTN Nigeria being able to shield themselves from that FX exposure somewhat with this renegotiation of their deal with IHS and ATC?
MTN has done what I think is a good strategy. I'm trying to, first, reduce their exposure to FX liabilities, and with the hope that that's going to help them print some profit, positive numbers. And I think for investors also, MTN has seen some downturn in recent times. It started the year at about 260, I think about 264 per share. And currently, as a result of today's rally, they are around 198. It seems more or less suggests that it's a good time to still enter the market. I think investors might want to try and position themselves with MTN shares going forward, with the possibility that there's still some upsides, at least to the end of the year.
Okay, so it's a good points of entry right now. So on the currency front, let's come to the currency front. And I know this is something you take a lot of interest in, right? We're seeing the Naira attempt some sort of, bounce back. Last couple of days, we did see gains. Today, a slight dip. And we know that there are claims that the currency is grossly undervalued at 1516. How can these claims of undervalued, right, of the Naira, how can it be backed, right, or substantiated, especially with the illiquidity that we're seeing? And what are the fundamentals that you see supporting the recent gains that we've seen?
So based on what we've seen that the CBN has been busy, really busy with different policies, reforms, and actions in a bid to defend the Naira. But again, we oftentimes say that the Naira is undervalued, and maybe it is so. But again, evidence in the market does not suggest that, because it seems the market is pricing the Naira around 1,600 to a dollar. Any other things changing? What are the things happening in the economy that suggest that we have as much FX liquidity to back some of these demands? We don't see that happening. Be it in the stock market, the money market, capital importation and whatnot. We don't have that much liquidity in the market to suggest that we can meet some of this demand. And here, the CBN came around using the retail Dutch system, I think early this week or last week. And that's expected to some way help reduce some of this demand in the market. But again, we don't really see that changing so much, because the Naira has found a way to hover around 1,006 stably in the past 2-3 weeks, and nothing else is changing to suggest that we have more inflows in terms of FX, except the fact that the federal government is trying to come up with a $500 million local, what I call a local euro bond, in this case a local dollar denominated bond. Maybe that just helps for some level of FX liquidity in the market. But right now, nothing seems to be changing, because even the CBN is selling at a rate close to 1,004, 1,005 region to market players. And if you do the plus or minus, we are probably going to move around that region.
We'll have that conversation
for the interim.
All right. Thank you so much, Samuel. We'll see, what happens in that regard, right, and have that conversation on the bonds, dollar-denominated bonds in just a bit. But thank you so much for joining me, Samuel Oyakanmi, Research and Insight Associate with Norrenberger. Great to have you join me.